All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is episode 15 of Almost in Agreement. It is June 2020. We tried to watch, Sam and I at least watched some of the Trump rally. I want to start, though, and say happy Juneteenth to those out there who actually know what it is. I think it should be a bigger deal than it is, but so I'm going to try to do our part to promote that holiday and make it a more real holiday. I feel like it should be in like at least like the Labor Day, maybe Veterans Day kind of level of a holiday, especially because it's always June 19th, so it's a summer holiday. It should at least be better than a bigger deal than Cinco de Mayo. I guess that's where I want
yeah.
Well,
we need to get some kind of like food and alcoholic beverage wrapped around the Juneteenth, so
make it a party holiday.
Stupid Americans can wrap their mind around what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to work on that.
I think there was a story of some kind of large, I don't want to misquote and say the wrong large company, but there was a large company that did a Juneteenth party for
I'd
their
heard some stuff like that too, yeah.
Had a bunch of watermelon and barbecue.
Yeah, that's
kind of like, watermelon's a summer thing, but it can definitely be misconstrued.
Watermelon's delicious. My youngest is a watermelon junkie. AC's a watermelon junkie. I found that out a couple weekends ago. That guy will eat an entire watermelon if you don't get a slice or two out before he gets his hands on it. It's gone.
I go through times of it. It can be nice, but it can be damn sloppy.
Yeah, but on the lake or something like that, it's perfect because you just make a mess and you jump in and rinse it off and go.
Did you put salt in your watermelon?
I have. My mom's cantaloupe. My mom and salted cantaloupe is her jam.
I've never had salted cantaloupe.
Yeah.
I was in the Marine Corps when I learned about salt on a watermelon. I was like, what the hell are you talking about, salt on a watermelon?
From a black guy?
No, he was a white guy.
Huh.
From Arkansas.
But you were in the Marine Corps with that was going to be a bad Clinton joke, but it just didn't make sense, so I stopped myself. So anyway, I think Juneteenth should be a bigger deal. I agree. I think it needs to get marketed better as far as a package deal. Some margaritas and tacos on Cinco. I don't know what the food and drink combo is for Juneteenth to make it a thing, but I think I don't know. It's like, it's cool. It's an interesting, just the actual story around it. Cause the suck part is I realized, I learned that it existed last year, and all I knew of it last year when I looked at it, like cursory glance, it's like, what is Juneteenth? Because it popped up in my calendar of holidays, and I looked it up, and it's like, oh, it's the day that was the official day of the end of slavery. It's like, oh, that's cool. And then this year when I was looking more into it, it's like, oh, it's actually like 4 months after the end of the Civil War, because whomever was charged to go across the land and make sure all the state governments knew about it, Texas was the last to find out about it. And so June 19th is the date that whatever group goes to Texas and announces it to Texas that they're all free. And so it's actually kind of, I don't know. It's a cool story.
I was reading a story that a lot of southern states were sending their slaves to Texas because they considered that out of kind of like, at that time with modern logistics, that was kind of out of the reach of the Union Army. They didn't think the Union Army, I guess, would go that far west.
During the war or post-war?
I think during. During and maybe a little after. Because I want to say it was like 2 months. Well, I want to say I heard something that was 2 years after the end of the war. Or maybe it was 2 years after
the Juneteenth thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know exactly the timeline, but I don't know. Anyway.
Well, if you do that holiday, you definitely can't do Uncle Ben's or Aunt Jemima syrup.
Aunt Jemima doesn't exist anymore, so it's okay.
It says no more.
Which is sad. I don't know. Did you guys look in the history of that?
I saw a post on it, and assuming it's true, it does seem to be a little overreactive to the story of that person if it's true.
Yeah, I've done some research, but of course it's internet research, so who knows how credible it is. But like how she was a slave, and then she was freed, and then she became like the spokesman at fairs for their pancake mix, and she had a great personality, and people liked her, and so people used to come to the fair and watch her making pancakes, and they ended up signing her to like a lifetime contract and used her image, and it was like, man, that's pretty crazy. This woman went from a slave to like
a celebrity.
Of the day, yeah. And they changed her name. Obviously, that's not her real name,
right?
But it's just sad that you kind of take it away. Like I saw a thing about her great grandson or whatever is like pissed off about
my royalties.
I don't know. It seems like a good story. It doesn't seem like a bad story. I don't know. That's
I was talking with a friend about it. And, I mean, it's not something I don't think that crossed most people's minds. But I think it was General Mills. But from their marketing standpoint, I wondered did it not cross their mind at some point? 20, 30 years ago, when they started having more like racial equality. It's like, maybe we should, rethink our spokesperson, the head of the brand.
Yeah, I'm sure it crossed their mind at some point but I don't know. I never thought of Aunt Jemima as being like a racist image.
I mean, it's like name another name brand syrup. There's only one that I can think of.
Mrs. Buttersworth.
Log Cabin.
Log Cabin's the only one I think of. What's Miss Butterworth? She's like an old white lady, right?
She's transparent.
I mean, she starts out brown, I guess, and she ends up clear, whatever that means. But
once the dust settles,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, but you talk about like iconic imagery as far as a brand goes. I mean, that's up there. I mean, it's probably top 100 brands. You ask anybody who or what Aunt Jemima is, and most people probably are going to hit that on the head, and it's going to be pancake syrup.
Yeah.
Same thing with same thing with Uncle Ben's. Like,
yeah, I didn't see anything on the Uncle Ben's on what the deal with that of
the history of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know either, but I don't know. It's just it's. I mean, on a surface level, I get it, but at the same time, I don't think I have a hard time believing that is any sort of reinforcement for a racist person. It's like, this is what black people are. They're all like Aunt Jemima. Because if that's true, then you're going to love them.
Do you think the KKK buy Aunt Jemima pancake syrup for their pancakes because it makes them feel good about their white supremacy?
Or they don't buy it because there's a black lady on the bottle?
There's a black lady on the bottle. Like, I mean, if we're going to just erase everything, then, I mean, hell, we just need to contact the Navajo Nation and say, all right, we're going back to where we originally fucked up, and we have no government. You guys now lead the country, and you tell us what goes, because everything we've done over the last 150 years is now deemed as racist.
That's kind of that is a narrative that's happening. I've talked about it before. The 1619 Project. It's a New York Times editorial series that is the general hypothesis of the essay, for lack of a better word, is that 1619 was the year that the first slaves were brought over to the Americas by the Europeans, and for all intents and purposes, America has not changed since then. And that we're just as racist as a nation now as we were in 1619, even though we weren't even a nation yet. But it even argues in there at some point that part of the revolution was to be able to keep slaves. And it's like, well, I don't know. Pretty sure. I mean, I know U.S. was one of the last to abolish slavery, at least of the Western countries, but I'm pretty sure at the time of the revolution, Britain was still a slaveholding country. Or at least maybe not Britain proper, but at least all their colonies that weren't the Americas were still slave colony, had slavery as part of them. And I don't think my remembering of history is not that we decided to become our own country because Britain was done with slavery and we wanted to keep them. I don't recall that part of the history class. But that's part of the stuff that the 1619 put in, and they actually ended up retracting a couple items from it because a bunch of historians that's just historically wrong. But the general premise, the general premise is that we as America have been a racist country from day one, and we still are today, 400 years later. And I have a hard time, I really have a hard time trying to wrap my head around that as a true premise, because that's one of the things with Jamie in the interview. It's like I don't with everything going on right now. Like, I see the news and I watch the news, and it's like, am I a racist? Like, am I a legit racist? And me, I guess I have the hardest time with it because I am legitimately discriminatory, and I'm okay with that. And I argue pro discrimination all the time as far as the libertarian concept of that bit. But I don't think I'm racist, and I have a hard time trying to wrap my head around being told that I am. And so I don't know, trying to figure that part out.
Well, I mean, are we just going to get rid of everything that reminds us of something to do with racism?
I mean,
you made the joke about the watermelon or whatever they had. Like, do we just now outlaw watermelon? Outlaw anything that is? Cause, I mean, made the joke in our text about should we not use ropes anymore? You know, I mean, that's where do we stop in this to make things right? And when you say make things right or reparation, they talk about that, and it's like my mom came over to the United States when she was 19 in 1966, so I have no history on my mom's side of the family before 1966.
Right.
So why
over there selling tulips and shit?
Exactly, tulips and wooden shoes and shit. Why do we have to? Why am I involved in that then?
Right. Well, half of you was involved in that.
Well, my dad's grandparents came over from Ireland, so but like.
Well, Holland still does. I don't remember what it's for, but they do a one-day celebration, and I think they've started rethinking it in the past few years. But it's popular to dress up in blackface.
It's Christmas.
Is it for Christmas? I couldn't remember. There was some kind of holiday.
It's Christmas. It's St. Nicholas, and he was a real person there. But like my uncle, Christmas Eve used to hide. My uncle was not a good kid, being a little kid and being a little shithead, and so there was a thing on Christmas Eve that you would have like your neighbor or something that would like put a glove on or an arm, and they would open up the door and they would throw candy in the room on Christmas Eve. And if you were a bad kid, St. Nicholas would come take you and make you one of his little black slaves that had to work for him all year round or whatever. And so like part of their thing, I'm sure it's changing now with everything that's going on, but it used to be like, St. Nicholas with all his little black slaves. Instead of elves, it was little black slaves.
I mean, there's crazy Christmas stories like all throughout, even just Europe. Like remember when I took French, they had, I want to say it was southern France had the quote unquote Santa Claus that they would call Santa Claus, and I want to say it was more like the northern half had Père Noël, Father Christmas, and they had, I don't remember the French name for it, but it was essentially like Father Switches. So there was kind of like a good Santa Claus and a bad Santa Claus.
There's Krampus or whatever is the
Krampus,
the evil one, and
well, I just don't know where you stop for. You said the gator thing about the
there's a
gator bait,
which I mean is it the chomp? I don't know what that. I don't know that.
I think it's a chant.
Yeah, I saw that little story. I was like, I don't even know what that is.
I didn't realize that. You think that us being Tennessee fans, we would know what the gator bait chant is, but I don't know. It's
right because like gut reaction is screw those guys, whatever. It's Florida fans, fuck them. But then it's like, well, wait a minute, what's going on?
You're offending us, and we didn't even know it.
And so it's like, yeah, but that's one of those. It's just like okay, so that's a. Does anybody know that history? Like, you're in Gainesville on a Saturday afternoon in the swamp, and you're in the student section. Does anybody know that history of where that chant came from? I mean, I didn't know it until today, obviously, but I'm not.
I still don't understand that it says it comes from.
Apparently, they used to execute and feed slaves to gators for. I don't know if it's for trapping gators like they do now with chicken livers and stuff, but they used to feed black guys to gators
So the question is, what was that's something that the slave owners used to chant at the slave, like. I'm real confused on, and even just having this conversation and us talking about it, I'm like, am I racist? Is this racist for me to say this? Like now, I mean, even more now, you question everything you think or say.
I mean, I'll tell you one, like some of the Confederate monument issue ones actually hold some water as a problem to keep them up, in the sense that there's a lot that came up that were built and constructed in the 50s and 60s.
20s and 30s, yeah.
In response to the civil rights movement, it was a response to the ending of Jim Crow and the laws that were getting in place, and a bunch of people were pissed off, and so it was some of them were legitimately intended to kind of remind the citizenry of that, and that this is that we are the superior race kind of thing, and some of them were put up in that sense, and so I can get behind a little bit of the idea of like, okay, so that was. I mean, if it was more direct. Like it was like this was a Civil War Southern general, and the war ended, and it's maybe a part of a unity effort. The Union, the newly reconjoined Union, went out and tried to try to get everybody to be on the same page and be back to one America. We're going to honor your generals too, even though they were in this thing. Like if a lot of them were that's one story, but with a lot of them being well after, again, like as a response to Jim Crow and stuff like that, I could see those coming down.
But the Civil War was not fought over slavery. The Civil War was a part of slavery.
Part of the Civil War was about slavery.
The main cause.
Is that why we went to war?
Yeah.
No.
I've had to reconcile this myself. I mean, I grew up in Georgia, and it was a lot of it was Sherman was terrible for marching. Of course, Sherman was hated throughout Georgia. I was in an area that was literally burned when Sherman did his march to the sea.
So you're saying that the Civil War started because the North wanted to abolish slavery, and the South said, we don't want to abolish slavery.
It was one of the main precursors of the Civil War.
No,
I was taught that it was, the North was kind of jealous for the South because that's where most of the agricultural and a lot of manufacturing. I mean, the North had factories, but the South, I guess, I don't say more manpower, but they had a lot of the plantations where a lot of the food and cotton and everything was coming from. Cotton's always been a big staple. But that's how it was kind of taught to me when I was young.
No, that's not what I learned.
What precipitated the Civil War?
The same thing with that why the United States was was claiming independence from the Britons. The South didn't feel like they had the representation up north, and so they wanted to succeed from the Union and create their own policies. The whole slavery didn't come up till after the war was already even started. I mean, I'm not saying that the slavery was not a big part of the Civil War, but the Civil War was not started because the South wanted to keep slaves.
Well, some of it was still there too, because you had like the 3/5 compromise, because it was a voting issue, because you had the big cities in the North, like you still do, and the population was there, and there was all your labor, for lack of a better word, in the North was voting populace, where all your labor in the South was not. And so you could have a plantation that has 100 people on it, but only 10 of them can legally vote because 90 of them are slaves. And so when you get into the representative government part of that conversation, it's like, well, South Carolina could have had, I don't know the numbers, but South Carolina could have had total actual population comparable to maybe New Jersey at the time, but with voting countable population, since the slaves didn't count, South Carolina had less power in the federal government because they didn't have the voting population compared to the North. And so I know that was one of the big issues, because that's where the 3/5 compromise came from. And as a slave owner, you were allowed to count, for every 5 slaves you owned, that counted as 3 votes for population's sake. Maybe not 3 votes, but 3 for your population, like a census count. You had if you had 50 slaves, the census counted that as 30 people.
And
as far as
you
for
couldn't
census
vote unless you were a landowner.
Right.
It wasn't, every white guy could go vote.
But that point being is maybe not as directly in that the North said we want to get rid of slavery, the South said no, we want to keep it, let's fight. But there was a lot of other stuff going on around it that was in and around and partly involved in slavery, at least. But I mean,
taxation without representation,
right? And it's I've heard it argued as it was a states' rights issue, and whether slavery was included in the conversation or not. It was like, we as South Carolina want to do what we as South Carolina do. We don't want to take orders from Virginia. Well, Virginia's a southern state, but we don't want to take orders from Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey, and what they want, because they're nothing like us. We're down here. Let us do what we do the way we do it. You stay up there and do the way you do it, and which is, I'm generally down with that idea as far as how government should work better.
When was the Missouri Compromise? So I want to say that had to do as well, as far as like bringing it into the Union. I think both sides kind of had to come to a compromise that, okay, we'll let this be a state, but you have to allow slavery there.
Right.
I think was a part of the
because they were arguing over, because again it was all Congress and Senate issues, and then how many seats each state got, and then I mean, it essentially be like if you put it in the current sense, it's like, well, we're going to make Puerto Rico a state finally, and if you could somehow argue that it has to be a Republican or a Democrat state, like that was kind of the conversation.
It would throw off the Senate,
right? It's like, we're fairly balanced the way we are. If we added another state to the union and it goes to the north, then that's going to throw off the balance, and we can't operate the way we want to operate, and then the North's going to have too much power and going to do whatever they want to us in the South, or vice versa. So that was the Missouri Compromise.
I don't know why Puerto Rico is not a state.
I don't know why. I don't understand.
There's talk again of I think they've just reintroduced it back into Congress, but trying to make the District of Columbia a state. Or they've always been like in this kind of like middle ground where I guess it's the whole city itself is considered federal land.
Well, it's like, to me, like the premise of DC was to not be a state. It was to be the home of the president and the offices and meeting places for the government. The fact that there are people that live inside DC is what's weird.
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, it's not big. It's not like, I mean, so just be like, just zero occupancy. There's nobody lives here except for the president.
Yeah, I think her name's Maxine Waters. They have a representative in the House of Representatives.
Right.
But I think she's limited as to what she can vote on. I think there's times where like her vote doesn't really count for some things.
Yeah, I know if you're, if you're Puerto Rico or Guam, because Guam's a U.S. territory, like those people that are born there are U.S. citizens. They can vote, but like they don't vote for senators or anything, right?
Like the back of their passport actually says something different. It doesn't say like U.S. citizen.
Like U.S. sovereign territory or something?
I think I heard a little bit more with like the American Samoa.
No, like if you're Puerto Rican, you're a U.S. citizen. You vote.
But Puerto Rico doesn't have...
They don't have senators.
Right.
They don't have... So what did they... They only vote for a president?
If you're Puerto Rican, why do you want to be a state?
Well, I think then they would... They have nobody fighting for them.
Right.
When something happens in Puerto Rico, it's kind of like...
Right, but I'd be... If I'm a Puerto Rican...
Florida's not like, let's help out Puerto Rico.
Right. But if I'm Puerto Rican, I'd be like... I think I'd go the other way. I'd be like, how about you guys just cut us off? Just leave us alone. Like, if you're not going to make us a state, then just let us be our own country. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree. I don't know what the point of keeping them...
I don't know what benefit...
I don't know how that benefits the United States, how that...
Do we have bases there?
Puerto Rico? I'm sure we have a base there. In Guam, we do. Of course.
But even if they weren't, properties of the United States, it's not like we don't have bases all over the world that are in countries that aren't property of the United States. So be like, hey, Puerto Rico, you can be your own country, but we need to keep this, 10,000 acre military complex over here in the corner. You just pretend it's not here. Don't worry about us. Our soldiers and sailors might come into town every once in a while and spend some money. We're all good. But I mean, I don't know. To me, it's like, what benefit does it give the United States to add them as a state? Both to the United States as is, and to the Puerto Ricans. Like, what is a bonus for them? Because I've heard some stuff about it. Because there's a lot of the lower income classes in Puerto Rico want to become a state, because since they're not a state, they are not eligible for some of the benefits that American citizens in states have, as far as unemployment and some of the welfare systems that are in place. They're not eligible for it because they're not a state. And so there's some people that are asking for it. That's one of the reasons that some people are asking for it to become a state in Puerto Rico, is because they want some of those benefits to go to those citizens. But I've heard there's an economist guy I was listening to, this a while ago, but he was talking about, he put his corporate offices in Puerto Rico, since it's not a state. Talk about some of the loophole games that accountants and business people play. Apparently, putting your business offices in Puerto Rico has a very strong tax incentive. Since it's not I don't think they pay federal income tax as Puerto Ricans. So as a business, you don't pay all the same taxes, but you get a lot of the benefits of being in the United States, because you can travel freely between it and all the different stuff that goes along with that. So there's, talking about business loopholes and taking advantage of tax situations, Puerto Rico gives American citizens an easy way to kind of jump around some tax situations. So, I don't know.
Surprise.
All right. How do we get on Puerto Rico?
Okay, we were talking about citizens. You brought up Puerto Rico.
I did?
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
So if you're born January 13th, 1941 or after, you are a citizen of the United States. Prior,
As a Puerto Rican.
you're a citizen of Puerto Rico. If you're born before 1941,
So if you're about dead, you're Puerto Rican. If you're not, you're an American.
you're American, yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. I was trying to track in my head whether it's the older population.
And that's law at Cornell.edu. Not wehatepuertoricans.com.
Max does bring in some questionable sources from time to time in conversation, but so
Well, I just bring in whatever side's going to help me out in this argument.
It was just the first thing that popped up.
It was the first thing that popped up, actually.
That is the world of internet. You can find support for your facts somewhere on the internet.
I've had to catch myself. I mean, I've had to go to like the second and third page sometimes, like looking for something, because it'll try to give you like the most specific words that you look up. So it's all in kind of how you word your search.
I always have to tell my wife, like, she'll post something, and I'm like, baby, you need to fact check that. She's like, what? I was like, if you want to just post it for shock value, cool, but that's not right. She's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, just search what you just posted, and you can, find, like, was it Snopes or any of those things, and you're like, it's wrong. But of course, I send you guys shit just to mess with you, just to.
I was having fun with I always like reading the Onions.
The Onions, yeah, that's a great one, because people.
They had one with like the Redskins. It was like the Washington Redskins, have finally decided they're going to change their names, and they'll be the DC Redskins.
Well, yeah, it's like I haven't talked to my buddy Taylor yet about the whole Redskin, because he's black, and I think we talked about that last week when he said, I've been Redskins all my life, and he's like, and I just started thinking, I was like, how would I feel if it was the other way around? And I was like, the Chicago Negroes? Like, he was like, yeah, that'd probably piss me off. And I was like, exactly. And he's like, I don't know if I can be a Redskins fan anymore.
I didn't learn until I went there in, it would have been late 90s, that's where the stadium was. I always thought it was Washington State. I never realized it was Washington, D.C.
Oh, really?
I didn't keep up with much football. I knew there was the Washington Redskins team, but I was like driving through D.C. with the people I was with, and I was like, what the hell's that stadium? They're like, that's the Redskins Stadium. I was like, what? That's in D.C.? I was like, I just never knew.
I had fun Washington, and so for all you lovely followers out there, one of my hobbies is messing with people that call me. So if you have a phone in the United States, I'm sure you get your extended warranty coverage, your insurance coverage, any of those kind of things, and they're trying to switch you over. They're fishing for stuff, and I like to play with those people. So my new one is when they ask me if I want to extend my warranty, I tell them this week, I was like, my country of Chaz does not recognize your insurance company. And the lady's like, what? And I was like, my country, Chaz. And she was like, I don't understand what you're saying. I was like, my country does not recognize the United States as being part of us. So I don't think that your extended warranty will work in my country. She was
That's
like,
hilarious.
Okay, you have a nice day. I was like, that's it? Nothing else?
I got one the other day, and I was out in the backyard, and I came running in here, tried to turn everything on. I was like, yeah, hold on a second. Let me get inside. I'm out in the yard. It's a little loud out here. Let me get in the house real quick so I can talk to you. So I came running in here, and I was trying to set it up, and I ended up hanging up on him trying to get everything plugged in and stuff. I was like, damn it. It's one of I don't remember which one it was, but yeah, Max and I used to do for funnies when we both had day jobs, and we spent the entire time driving around. We used to tag team robocallers. We had, what was it? What was the one that you? Maybe I shouldn't say that you impersonated a government official or not. There were two specific ones that I remember that we had a good time on, that we got them going for a long time. The first time we did it, it was, God, what was that one? It was one of the super scammy ones, and they called and they said to call him back, and I was like, okay, give me just a second. And so I called Max, and then talked to him for a second, and then I called the number they told me to call back on the phone. And the game we were playing was that each one, every time they asked a question, we'd switch people and see how long it took them to figure out that there's two different people. And so it'd be like, is your name whatever? And like, and so like, and so I'd pulled over. I had to stop working. I pulled over on the side of the road, and I'm sitting there. And so like they asked for an address, and I just made up an address. And while I'm making it up, I was typing it into Maps. And so it was it was close enough to a real address or whatever. And so then I I took a screenshot and I texted to Max so that when they asked a question, if it had to do with that, we went on probably for 15, 20 minutes until finally Max got all crazy on him with what was it? You said something about if you want to come into my compound and take it. What was a Social Security scam? I don't remember what it was.
I think it was the what is it called? The home warranty or something like that, maybe? I don't...
No, it was one of the bigger ones. It was an IRS one. It was one of the ones that was like, because it was one of the ones where they threatened that there was a warrant out.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Social Security back on, I don't remember. But I get some of those now because I think I've played with those people so much.
Right, they know you answer. The auto dialer knows if people just never answer, they don't call as much.
Yeah, and I got one about my diabetes test kits, and I went on like, what? I have diabetes? Why didn't anyone tell me that? Of course I need a test kit then if I have diabetes. And so now I get senior care calls. I get life alert calls about my life alert thing.
I mean, I get the medical bracelet one all the time. And that one's my least favorite because they double layer the robot. And so the original one's just like a recording. Hi, my name's blah, blah, blah. We've got a medical care. You might be eligible for a free emergency alert bracelet or whatever. And they go on and it's like, well, press 2 if you need to talk to whatever. And you press 2 and then it's another automated thing. And so you're talking to another computer, like it's going through another computer thing. And it's like, I want to waste your time, but I'm not going to take that much time to waste your time. Like, I don't just give me a person. Yeah.
I found it hilarious. I was calling my cable provider a few times over the past couple of weeks trying to figure some stuff out and upgrade. And they've got you got to talk to the computer for the first few times before you can actually get through and talk to anybody. But it's like, okay, I want to look that up, and they've literally got an audio recording of like somebody typing.
Yeah,
kept tapping keyboard sounds.
I was like,
yeah, I've heard it.
Did that put more people at ease that they feel like they're talking to a slightly more humanistic?
I mean, there's some I've had some that were like they have background noise in them, like it's like it sounds like it's in a room with other people talking, but not right up on it. I mean, they're getting pretty good at it. Home Depot is my least favorite currently. I was calling them, and they started out with an automated thing. It's like, how can we help you today? It's like commercial services. Well, Home Depot doesn't call it commercial services. They call it the Pro Desk or whatever. And so it's like, I don't understand. It's like, I don't know what the fuck you call that desk.
Representative.
Yeah. Then you're like, representative, agent, customer service. I need to find the right name to get to.
Zero. It's zero.
Well, they figured that out because now it's like press 9 for a representative. You're like...
I do that sometimes. Like, I'll just start hitting numbers and finally it'll be like, we're transferring you to someone.
I had the lady that called me the other day, and I thought it was a robot. And like I always try to trick it, so the answers you give, they don't know what it is or whatever.
Right.
And so I kept on saying things, and this computer was getting everything I was saying. I was like, this is pretty good. And it was for refinancing my house.
Right.
And then they were like, did you serve time in the military? And I was like, yeah. And then she was like, oh, what branch? And I was like, oh, the Marine Corps. She's like, oh, my father was in the Marine Corps, blah, blah, blah. And then I went on a random long conversation. And then she responded, and I was like, oh, shit, this isn't a robot. I'm like, this is a real person. I thought it was a robot the whole entire time until we got to that part.
I ask them, I just straight ask, are you a robot? And there are some that are actually robots, and they say, no, I have a speech impediment, and so I use a computer to talk, and it's like,
ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
But it's one of those like, this might tie back into the conversation with the bonus episode I just did, in that, there's part of me that when you think about like discrimination issues, legally speaking, that it could be true. There could be a person who has a speech impediment that wanted to be a telemarketer really bad, and the telemarketing company and their lawyers are like, well, we can't not hire them. They talk on the phone for a living. They have a speech impediment. How can we hire them? It's like, well, we can't not hire them because of a speech impediment. That'd be discriminatory. So we have to hire them. And then they went through the process and put a computer thing in place so that they could type to talk or whatever. And it'd be a totally legit thing and a solid thing for the company to do if that was actually the situation. But I have a feeling it's not. But
like, well, my voice is a robot, but I'm a real person typing into the computer that's actually talking to you.
Yeah,
I promise. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I just think it's weird. It's a weird thing, and like, cause like the robocall stuff is just it is shotgun marketing. It's just throw 10,000 calls out an hour. If you get one, that's worth
a
it.
Success.
Yeah, and so I feel like it is my civic duty, especially when I'm working and I'm just driving around most of the time, to get onto an operator and waste as much of that operator's time as possible, so that maybe one person who is susceptible to the scam doesn't get that phone call today, and I win.
I thought about it like that. I thought about I'm like, man, just hit end and just block the call or whatever. He's trying to go through and just like actually block all those numbers, and I went in and looked, and I probably got like 100 phone numbers in there.
Oh, the block
That's
stuff.
the thing. Yeah,
Well,
they can call from any phone number they want.
And it's really easy actually, because when we started working on this, I was trying to figure out how to do like video conferencing, and that was before Zoom, before I really understood what Zoom was as far as a thing. Mostly it's because of the old recorder we had and trying to figure out how to get the phone hooked up to it. This one has a much better system for it. And so I was trying to figure out how to do through Google. You can get a Google phone account, and it's through your computer, and it would be, if we wanted to, we could have it running right now. And if AC wanted to call in through the Google phone thing, it would go through the computer and do it. And it literally just straight asks you, what phone number do you want? And you can put whatever phone number you're in, and you can change it anytime you want to. And so for these robo things, I mean, which I'm sure somebody, these robo-caller things, they're good enough at it that they can just go, that they can write an algorithm that phone number changes every day, just +1 -1 of the previous number, or, right. Digit 6 of the 10-digit number, that one goes +1 -1 every day, just to keep moving it around. So, they're just constantly changing that number, and it's the same number. Because I get all of them. I get them all the time. I've got some that are actually my number.
I've got a couple that's like 1 digit off.
Right, I get a ton that are like a digit or 2 off.
Most of those calls are 865, like the area code. It's always...
Right, but not just the area code. I mean, I've gotten it's my entire phone number, or my entire phone number ±1 or 2. And it's like, I'm calling myself. Neat. Which I guess you can do sometimes in weird ways. But anyway, because that's actually how I tested the Google thing when I was messing with it, was I called my phone from the computer, having my phone number as the register, or as the shown number on caller ID when you call out. So like, it literally was my phone number calling me, but it wasn't my phone calling me.
Yeah.
So
that'd be with their algorithms, whether it's better to just not answer or to actually answer it. If their system's detecting like, oh, somebody's actually answering it this thing.
I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure, because I
get a hold of somebody and they're like, okay, they might cross you off that list if you're just totally fucking with them.
See, that's what I'm hoping, but it doesn't seem to be true, because I get a ton of them all the time, and because I answer them, I assume because I answer them, and I go through the process of engaging with them to waste their time, and to be an accomplice to, what was I say earlier? Impersonating a government official. I was an accomplice to that scheme, but
wasn't impersonating.
You just said you were the governor-elect. Not impersonating. I just said I was them. But, and I was thinking about it too, is like, because actually, literally the first conversation we ever had about doing a podcast was getting those recorded, and then just doing episodes of us fucking with scam phone calls. And like, I started thinking about like some of the legal stuff on it.
I don't remember that.
This is just me and him when we both had day jobs to drive all the time. It's like, that'd be a funny ass podcast. And I still want to do it. If I can get the chance, I'm gonna do it. If I happen to be at home and everything's here in front of me and I can get it in and on the system, I'm gonna get it in on the system, and I'm gonna do my best to fuck with them. And hopefully it'll be funnier than it actually is, because I'm not that funny. But
I've seen like retired IRS agents that will do that.
Yeah, I mean, and, I think it's with our beautiful audience that we have getting this information out, there's people out there that fall for this shit, and it's gross. And if one person doesn't fall for it because we put forth the effort, I'm good with that. I'd feel good about myself.
So many people. Well, my mom and my sister almost fell for that the Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, I mean, I totally did. I just didn't. When we shut down the second store.
Yeah, we weren't doing. I mean, we thought it was.
It seemed fishy, and I kind of pumped the brakes on it. But I put that check in, and then I called the bank. I was like, "Hey, this seems weird." And then the second time it happened to me, I went to the bank with the check, sat down with the person at the desk or whatever, and I was like, "All right, so this happened to me before, and it's kind of the same feels like the same little scam or whatever. So how's this work exactly?" And I was like, but as soon as I handed them the check, they're like, "This isn't real." It's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Well, it's just, you could tell by like the bank name and stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense." I was like, "Okay, but I don't understand how this works." And she's like, "Well, what happens is you as a bank customer, you've been a customer with us for a period of time. We will clear that check in your account in 2 or 3 days. But the process takes a while, normally speaking, it usually takes a couple of weeks for all that information to go back and forth between the banks before it figures out that was a bad check, because they, it's like what's that DiCaprio movie with Tom Hanks, Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can.
Same kind of deal. Movie. They do a lot of different stuff to manipulate the check to make it take longer to go through the process. I was like, okay, so if I put this in my bank account and wait a month and then pull those funds, she's like, "It doesn't matter." I was like, "What do you mean it doesn't matter?" She's like, "It doesn't matter." I was like, "There's no period of time where for 100% that money is now in my account." And they're like, "No, because they can pull that check out anytime they want to, as whoever issued the check. They can pull that check out anytime they want to, and you're going to be on the hook for that money." And I was like, "So if I $3,000 check from these people, put it in the bank, I take that $3,000 out, put it in cash, stuff it in my mattress, they can pull that check out, and I get penalized." Like, "Yeah. And since we're having this conversation, if you do it now, or if you do it if it happens to you at any point further than now, we will close all your accounts, and you can no longer bank with us." And I was like, "So I'm the bad guy here? I'm so confused right now. Like, I'm just trying to understand this because I want to know how it works. How is it possible that I could have a check, deposit in my account, have it in there for a seriously significant amount of time, and then you pull it out?" It's like, can I do that? Can I just write a check for my mortgage and wait 5 years and be like, "All those mortgage checks, I didn't write those checks, bring them back," and take 10 years of mortgage checks and then default and let my house get foreclosed on, wherever the fuck will go on? I mean, that side's not important. Just that amount of money of all the checks I've written to rent or mortgage over the years.
That doesn't make any sense.
And just take it back. And it's like, well, no. It's like, well, how does it work? You guys are the institution that are handling this. How does it work that they can do this and you guys can't protect me, the customer, from it? And there was no answer. And again, the only answer I got was, be really careful, because if it happens to you and you do it, we're gonna close your accounts and you can't bank with us anymore.
That's silly.
I was like, that's crazy. Genius, I guess, that they figured out how to mess with the system that hard, but
cut out their liability.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, to me, it's like, well, I mean, especially now in the digital age of banking and stuff, like, how is it not instantaneous as soon as that check gets scanned into my bank that they're not connected information-wise, and they know immediately?
Yeah. I can go on Amazon, and they can go through PayPal and instantly know that I have funds through my PayPal account, but we can't do that with a check and a bank to bank.
I mean, you can go to, like, you could sell me your boat, and I could give you a $5,000 check for your boat, and you can call my bank right now. Like, as I hand you that check, it's like, you're cool if I check with the bank, make sure this is a good check? And that bank's going to be like, yeah, that's a good check. How is that easy for normal people to do normal business, but it's not that easy for the banks to do better at that kind of thing?
Yeah.
I don't know, because they're not incentive. I mean, it's not an incentive for them to care, realistically, because they're not going to pay for it at the end of the day, and they don't care. So, but I went back to the Jamie thing. What was I talking about the Jamie thing? Discrimination.
You talked for an hour.
Yeah, but no, that was the phone thing. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. He's such a damn lawyer. He's almost as bad. Well, he's worse than AC, because Jamie's actually a lawyer, so he doesn't just talk like a lawyer, he is one.
Well, it actually is more technically, legally complicated.
Right, and so, and I kind of, in hindsight, I kind of should have known better. And the way I asked some of the questions and being more specific about putting a hypothetical on that wasn't me or wasn't you or wasn't us, and really designing a hypothetical that answered the question I was after. Because usually, a lot of the times I ask a question and he would answer it as it relates to me, as it relates to our business and stuff like that. And it's like, well, that's not my point. It's like, I get that because right now, no discrimination laws apply to us at all. State of Tennessee has a whole set, but you have to have 8 or more employees, and federal doesn't apply until you have 15 or more. But what's really fucked up that I learned from talking to him was, if you import product from out of state to sell, logically you're interstate commerce. But if you have a website, a Facebook page, Instagram, if you have any sort of social media attached to your business, you are by law engaging in interstate commerce. So federal law applies to your business. So like this Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, that's the big deal with the trans and gay conversation. That was mainly why I wanted to talk to him. That doesn't apply to us because we don't have enough employees. But if we hit the 15 threshold, it does apply to us because we have a Facebook page.
Interesting.
And so like literally, if you do a farm, if you do a farm thing and you go to, you just go and do a street side stand and sell your farm, like sell your stuff or whatever.
Sell your tomatoes.
Right. Not even your own street side, like just like right out in front of your farm, you set up a little stand and sell your tomatoes. If you have a Facebook page associated with that, you're doing interstate commerce. You buy the seeds locally, you plant them locally, obviously, you grow them, you do all this stuff locally, you pick them, you put them out in your front yard and sell them. Nothing applies at all if that's where your business stops. But if you have a Facebook page, you are now engaged in interstate commerce.
That doesn't make any sense, though.
Yeah, if all of your sales are within that same state,
this is what I learned from the lawyer.
Huh? Is he a good lawyer?
So Facebook, or he was saying you have like a website that you're doing sales on?
No, because he mentioned us specifically because we do no sales out of state.
Right.
Because it's gray area on whether or not we're allowed to sell online because it happens. There's plenty of companies that do it. But it seems to be a real gray, weird area, and we've never really put forth the effort and gotten traction. Mm-hmm. The couple times we have kind of dabbled into it. But, yeah, so we don't do any sales out of state. We technically fall under it because we import product from other states. We have vendors in Illinois and California and all that different stuff that send us stuff. And so that's already interstate commerce there.
Well, we take credit cards.
Yeah.
So that's automatic.
Yeah. He didn't mention that one, but I knew that one too. But I was kind of disappointed in him. I like the guy a lot, but he is like, I'm not disappointed in it. It was a very interesting thing to say, and I don't know how I feel about it. He hates Trump so much that he cut off his ties to the Republican Party. Okay, fine. I take no issue with that.
No, I'll start taking that literally for a second. He started cutting his ties.
He cut off all his ties and he sent them to the Republican Party.
But now
he cut his ties at a Republican Party.
Now he is. I don't know if he said he re-registered as a Democrat or not, but he considered himself a full-fledged Democrat. And his goal politically now is to punish all Republicans for letting Trump happen. And I was like, seriously? Because we talked about it on the bonus episode. He voted for Gary Johnson last time around, and so I was not near the libertarian as I am now, and I voted for Gary Johnson. And I'm like, well, why aren't you looking at the libertarian candidate this time around? And it's literally, I don't care about the libertarian candidate because I want a Democrat to win because fuck Republicans. Like, that is not, that was paraphrasing everybody because that was one of the things he kept doing. He was like paraphrasing me. I was like, stop. I know you're a lawyer. You can misquote me. I'm not going to sue you. Chill out. But he kept doing that. He's like, well, paraphrasing you is like, no, just misquote me. I don't care. Continue. But like, he's so.
He doesn't want Joe Jorgensen.
Right, but he's so mad at the Republicans for Trump that he wants to punish the Republican Party for it. He doesn't like Marsha Blackburn either. So he said her name and I went, ugh. Like, that was like literally he said her name and I gagged on mic. because we don't like her either.
I don't know how anybody voted for her.
But this is what's weird. Okay, so thinking about that part too is what's really
I guess
weird.
we're probably not going to have her on our program, are we?
I'll send her an email. I don't give a fuck. What's weird to me is I was thinking about that when he said it though. It's like because he was like, and it's too bad too because she's the first female senator from the state of Tennessee. And I was like, who gives a fuck? She's a gross individual. Has nothing to do with the fact that she's got a vagina or not. She's gross. She is gross. She is a mini evil Trump person, and she grosses me the fuck out. I don't care that it's a she. Why do you? Why does anybody care that she's a she? And that's that's the big issue that I have with this whole conversation with the Supreme Court ruling. And it's like, yes, I understand that there are people out there that really truly care about that, but do people in general really care? I want a capable, competent person to do the job, whatever the job is. But if we're talking politics and we're staying in that realm, I don't care what they are physically.
Mm-hmm.
Are they dirty, corrupt politicians? Then I don't like them. If it's a black, trans, whatever, they're honest and they're direct and they're straightforward and they actually give me at least the feeling that they're looking out for me as a citizen. Win. The first part of that whole thing doesn't matter. It's a person who, at least at minimum, gives me the feeling that their intent and effort is for me as their constituent. If that's what they're doing, I don't care what they look like. I don't care where they're from, as long as they fall inside the rules of being able to run for said thing. As far as like, the president's got to be a certain age and it's got to be an American citizen or born here and all that kind of different shit. As long as they fit in the guidelines of, I don't know what the rules are. Like, I don't know if Miss Gina Oster has to reside in District 18 to run for District 18. If that's part of the rule, great. But other than that, I don't care that she's a woman. I don't care that she's a grandmother. I don't care about any of that. I care about what we talked about with her. I care about what's going on with the schools, what she's going to do when she gets there. What's the budget going to look like? Those are the things I care about. And so it pains me that was even mentioned. The fact that he even mentions, like, it's too bad she was the first female senator. Like, moving forward, we're going to think about all females running for a senator and compare them to her. We're only going to compare whoever this next female senator to her is on whether she's dirty and gross like Marsha Blackburn or not. It doesn't matter. The female part doesn't matter.
Well, to paraphrase AC, is that what we now say?
Yeah, just paraphrase everything. This entire episode has been paraphrased.
He's just a stupid wrestler. Like people that don't like our wonderful Mayor Kane. They'll be like, "Hey, you stupid wrestler." What does that have to do with him doing his job? Like, what? I mean, that has nothing to do with his political stand or his policies. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why people have to. Just exactly like Seth was saying.
I think people have to, but I think it's also, I mean, I guess in the mayor's situation, it's almost kind of hard to not think about it. Like, all of a sudden you think, I mean, don't even call him by his name. You call him by his wrestler name.
Yeah.
Most people know him as that. Like, he made literally worldwide, like, fame off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of hard to kind of forget about that.
Yeah, but
I mean, as much as you want to focus, I mean, I don't disagree. You should definitely be focusing on what his policies are.
Yeah,
shouldn't be thinking about other shit he does.
Exactly. Don't tell me an aspect of his life is the reason why you don't like him as a candidate. I mean, that's tell me what policies you don't like,
right.
Or
but for as popular as wrestling is, I would shudder to think there's not people out there like, well, he got in this big feud with Undertaker, and he was, and just start associating like, he really hated that guy, and
yeah,
I saw him double body slam suplex that guy.
Well, it's just like,
so I know he's tough.
It's when Trump was trying to figure out how to reopen sports, and he was putting that cabinet together, and Vince McMahon was one of the people on his list, and they're like, what does he have to do with? I'm like, well, he's a major sports person that has millions of people that watch him and thousands of people that go to these events. So wouldn't you want his input on what they should do to reopen sports? Like, anyone who does anything, if you're a music venue, like a big promoter, you should be on Trump's task force for talking about how things should reopen. Like, I don't know, it's silly sometimes.
But I would look at them as how to reopen it. I mean, how do you market to people? Because that's what they've been doing. They've been selling a business to people.
Yeah.
I don't think I would necessarily look to them to how to reopen a business.
Well, no, not well. I mean, you want their input on how do we do this? You know, you want to talk to these people about.
Yeah, like obviously you're trying to
can we go-
reopen. Yeah, like
how can we do this?
together?
So it makes sense. I don't know, but yeah, just like
Yeah, I was watching a soccer game today and didn't realize they're not having any of the ball boys or ball girls. So if the ball goes out of bounds, they've got somebody on the sidelines that'll just kind of toss a fresh ball to the person if it goes out of reach. And they had cut those out. This was the British Premier League that was on today.
did they have the fan like the crowd noise going on in the stadium?
I didn't watch too much.
Okay.
I think one of the commentators said, he was like, I really don't see a big deal in that. He was like, most people, when you're out there playing, like, you're not really paying attention to anybody else around you. Like, you're focused on where's the ball at, where's this guy going. Like,
I'd have to.
I mean,
there's
yeah,
no
you're
way
still hearing the stuff, but I think when you're out there in the middle of it, you tend to block everything out.
No, I mean,
I thought that was interesting. They had little, little tripods or whatever that had, balls kind of dispersed throughout the field. I kind of thought that was interesting. I was like, I would have never thought about that. As far as not having to have like somebody else be down there just to standing around and just throw somebody a ball whenever the ball goes out of bounds. It's like, hey, no, we're just going to go ahead and set up some balls around. So if it goes out, they're right there if you need one. Keep playing.
Right.
But I'm sure, like, you're running for a touchdown. You break free. You got 40 yards to go, and people are chasing you, and you're running towards the end zone, and there's all your fans there screaming. I mean, there's got to be that little adrenaline that makes you run a little bit faster, or not get tired as quickly. I think they do have.
I mean,
there's always that home field advantage.
Right.
I'm sure
you
the
can get
kickers,
the crowd behind you.
I'm sure the kickers are loving it, though, right?
Yeah, the kickers will like. Well, yeah, you got 12th man in Seattle or whatever. Or I mean, Chaz. Excuse me, I didn't mean to misidentify that city. But I was watching NASCAR last weekend because there's not a lot of sports, and I don't like NASCAR. It's Sunday afternoon NASCAR is one of my favorites because you sit there, you turn it on, you watch, you fall asleep, you wake back up, and you didn't really miss anything. I enjoyed NASCAR for napping.
They're still going in a circle.
I use golf for that.
There was a little bit of a rain delay or something like that, which is dumb about NASCAR. But anyway, that's the point. And so
slicks.
They were just shooting the shit with all the different drivers, killing time or whatever. One of the drivers, they were talking to one of the drivers, like, well, what's it like, because it was a Homestead Raceway or whatever. It's the first time they had any fans in stands, but it was like 500 from the air base that's right across the street from the racetrack or something like that. So it wasn't like full on fans. It was just something for the guy, the airman to do or whatever, and which is cool. But I don't remember who the driver was talking about it. He's like, it's loud as shit in these cars. Oh. It's when you get out of the car at the end of the race and it's silent. Yeah, that's a little weird. But for the most part, we're going 200 something miles an hour. I'm 2 inches off this guy's bumper. I'm not looking in the stands. He's like, I love having fans here, and I'm not trying to downplay, and I'm super excited for them to come back, but I can't hear them. I can't see them. It's not something that crosses my mind during the process. So I kind of get it for NASCAR specifically.
They're going 200 miles an hour. Yeah. Was that boobies? Did someone just flash me?
Hey, I know that guy.
That guy just say some shit about me.
You're a mom, motherfucker.
Is that the middle finger?
But yeah, I mean, I'm curious. Like, Sam and I at least just watched some of that Trump rally, and I'm curious. I'm sure it's happening right now all over CNN and stuff like that about the exact numbers of actual people there. But Pence spoke for a little bit, and then there was a little intermission for lack of.
Who's that?
Pence.
Yeah.
Pence, the Vice President of the United States.
Oh, okay, him.
Pence. He spoke for a little bit, and then he left, and there was like an intermission. I figured it would be like, Pence finishes up and he's like, "No, you're president." Like I figured it was gonna be like a hype up for the next guy, but no, it just stopped, and it's just people milling around that are in there. And I mean, I don't know what arena in Tulsa. Like I don't know what, like it's a basketball arena or whatever. I don't know what.
That'd be my guess. It looked like it was indoors.
It is. No, it was definitely. Yeah. I mean, it definitely was. I just it's not like it's not like the Bradley Center in Milwaukee where the Bucks play. It's not, United Center in Chicago where the Bulls play. Like, I don't know whose stadium it is what my point was. So, like you get into, we have the stupid Civic here and then Thompson Bowling, and, you can kind of
Was it the Sooners? Where were the Sooners basketball team plays?
maybe, but I'm trying to mentally kind of like if it's a pro arena, it's because it's like for football, like college football, especially SEC football versus pro football. SEC football stadiums are bigger, almost unless you're Kentucky or Vandy or something like that. But like UT Stadium is bigger.
I think Michigan's the biggest right now.
It is, but I'm just saying UT Stadium is bigger than most. I think every pro stadium. Yeah.
Most pro stadiums around 60 to
right. Like
70,000.
I think Jerry World gets up there in the 80 something. Jerry World's pretty big, but anyway, point being, I'm trying to. Yeah, Dallas. Yeah, sorry, okay. Jerry Jones. Dallas sucks. AC knows that Dallas sucks. He's a Cowboys fan, sucker.
Right. The Mercedes-Benz looks pretty big.
Yeah, but point being is, I'm trying to figure out who plays there to try to guess what size venue this is, whether it's a 25,000 seater or a 45,000 seater, because you get to some of those arenas, they get pretty big, but they're not that big. But I mean after Penn spoke, it was just some random camera in the back of the room that was kind of showing the whole room, and I don't know if it was something that they designed to put less people in for the ability to socially distance, even though they weren't. But I mean, it looked like there was maybe 500-600 people on the general admission floor area, and then
people knew there was going to be an opening act, and it was kind of like you go to a concert and you're like,
maybe I don't know.
Nobody showed up, and all of a sudden the headliner shows up, and you're like, where'd everybody come from?
And honestly, this is the first time I actually put forth effort into trying to watch a Trump rally. Like usually, I see them in snippets or in passing.
I was wondering how much it was going to be televised. I knew with as much hoopla there was around it that probably would be. It increases the interest, which inclines more networks to try to pick it up.
Giants is 82.5. That's the largest.
Largest in the NFL?
Yeah. Redskins is 82.
If you're using the Googles, Google just Google what attendance was at the Trump rally tonight and see what it says.
I don't know if they would have active numbers yet.
And so it'd be curious. I'm just curious to know. I'd be curious to know, and obviously Trump and his dumbassery will say it's the biggest rally ever. Millions, hundreds of thousands of people showed up. We had to send a lot of people away. There were so many people there, we couldn't handle it.
Lambeau is just 3 though. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, they just did a big renovation. I knew it was up there.
Texas is 4.
Yeah, they did a bunch to Lambeau. You know what the coolest part of Green Bay Packers football is?
Season ticket holders were sold out for 30 years.
Yeah, I tell this story all the time. I'm sure you both have heard it. But I had a good buddy of mine when I lived up in Racine, whose grandfather, for his 15th birthday, his grandfather bought him, my friend, didn't buy him anything. He put him on the waiting list for season tickets at 15. And I think
you got 20 years to start saving up money.
And I think at the time it was like 17-year average when he put him on that ticket. So he's like, and so I mean, because we were 15 and we were like, what the fuck? That's cool, but that's weird. And essentially he was like, yeah, my grandpa's like, get your shit together, go to school, get a job, get your money right,
get ready to afford.
Because when you're
taking me,
when you're in your early 30s, you should be lined up to get Packers tickets.
Now So we said that the Giants Stadium is number 1. It would be number 15 in college stadiums.
Okay. He for those listening, he did not Google the question I asked, but so the largest NFL stadium, it would be the 15th largest college stadium.
Yeah, and then the number 2, which was the Redskins, it would be like 20th.
Yeah.
It drops pretty quick.
Yeah, like Michigan's up there, Ohio State's up there. I mean, Tennessee is one of the biggest year in and year out. They've cut a bunch out and put in luxury boxes instead, which I guess if you're not going to be number 1, you might as well give up and make it nice. But anyway. But I'm going back to the Trump rally thing. I am curious what the numbers were, and honestly, if this is normal for a Trump rally, I don't know. I don't know if it's normal for a Trump rally because I don't watch
72.
72 people?
Yeah, that's how many people were at the Trump rally.
That's how many people Trump brought with him?
How big was the counter protest, I wonder?
There's very bad people out there.
There was no
I
kind
saw a
of protest.
picture of
Those guys are busy doing other things.
I saw a picture of somebody getting arrested.
Yeah, there's some shit going
apparently
on.
the quote was he's like, I have a ticket. I don't know if there was some agent provocateur that had bought a ticket to the rally and was,
just to go start some shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're showing pictures of it, and if I had to guess, it was the lower bowl. So it was the upper bowl was not even
available.
There's no one sitting in there. So I would guess
that time is Tulsa. I don't think that's a big city.
Maybe like 10,000 people. Maybe
I don't know what that whole. If it's full, you're guessing 10,000, or you get. I mean, does it not? I mean, come on, somebody's got to have reported it already.
I'm not finding anything.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, all things considered, from what I gleaned of it, he going on and on about his stupid shuffle down the ramp thing that everybody was making fun of. He went on and on about the stupid people making fun of the way he drank water one time, which whatever. But honestly, there's stuff that's going to resonate, and there's stuff that if I'm honest about it, there's stuff that resonates with me. I
mean, I think most Trump supporters, you could say damn near anything. I mean, he has a
Are you calling me a Trump supporter? How dare you?
He has a fervent core.
Right.
Oh.
He has a base that.
Right, I agree.
That wholeheartedly believe in him.
Right.
You can
but I'm
say
just saying,
that as a good thing or a bad thing.
With all that we've talked on here about all the different things and what issues are important and what we like out of this, that, and the other and stuff, there's some stuff that definitely resonates with me about his rhetoric. And to give AC his due, which fuck him, he's not here, but to give AC his due, he is it's most likely rhetoric and only rhetoric, because he made reference to didn't think it was going to be this hard to drain the swamp. I need 4 more years to finish draining it. And
I think we've talked about before.
Thing.
I think a lot of parties kind of jump on general topics.
Right. And
I'm sure Democrats and Republicans both say, we want to make education great again. We want to build a better military.
Sloganeering is and Trump is a master of sloganeering.
Okay, the stadium only holds 19,000 people.
Is that a basketball stadium?
Yeah.
I'm assuming, yeah.
I mean, it's just an event center, I guess, because they don't,
their convention
center.
So
if I have to guess, who put some money on this, guess, I'm going to say 4,200 people.
So it only seats 19,000?
Yeah.
But seats 19,000. That's like, fuck. See if you could find like a concert that was there last year. What's the name of the venue?
That's kind of weird thing about concerts. Sometimes they'll block off that whole kind of like back end if it's a circular.
I don't know why I'm taking this. I'm taking this bet seriously. I want some information before I'm going to take the bet.
Hold on.
Bank of Oklahoma Center.
Okay.
Inside Tulsa's 19,000 seat Bank of Oklahoma Center.
Right, but 19,000 seats plus floor, and because you do a concert there, which essentially setup wise, this was a concert in the round, because from what I saw, at least, most of the people were sitting behind him. Nobody was sitting in the stands across from him. I did find it interesting that in all of the crowd that I did get to see in watching it, there was 2 black people, and they were both sitting right here. My hand is over my right shoulder, so like you're sitting there watching Trump, and there's 2 black people sitting just in view of him, or just behind him, but in view of the camera, and I didn't see another black person in the room. But that doesn't mean they weren't there. But I'm just saying,
all politicians do that.
You're saying, what was your guess number?
4,200.
I will take the over if that's it. What are my odds on this? I don't expect even money. I'll be fair. I'll give you 2-1 or 3-1.
So, I mean, hunting permits, where are we backed up to? Are we on like 2024 on hunting permits?
I'm not paying for one this year, so I've got an extra one to buy.
I've already paid for
We're gonna sit here, we're gonna have all these different bets going on. It's gonna come out just even. We all just paid for our own. I paid for yours, you paid for his, he paid for the other one, and then we all just ended up buying one, and it was our own anyway. But I would say over. I'll guess in like I'd say probably 8,500. I think I'd go well over it, like 85. If we're not playing, all right, not Price is Right rules, closest period.
Not Price is Right rules.
I mean, that's in your favor, because if we're playing Price is Right rules, I'll say 4,201 or whatever.
Yeah.
Not Price is Right rules. I don't know, a tenner. Let's.
Yeah, I thought about going for 10. When you
10
say 19, I mean, I'm assuming that's
No,
total
I'm saying
capacity.
$10.
Oh,
$10 is the bet. I'm gonna go with 85.
42.
Max has got 42.
I don't want to take the super over.
You don't want to sound like you actually hope Trump succeeded. Is that what you're saying?
I'm gonna stick. Yeah, I'm gonna say 9,000.
9,000. He just prices right me. So I'm
What was yours?
85.
Okay, never mind.
Probably
10 grand.
Probably need to write this down.
10 grand.
Why? Because we can't
I'm not putting anything on there.
Yeah,
I'm just guessing.
I'll be doing some editing tonight or tomorrow. And I'll be like, oh yeah, need to find the answer to that. All right, so Max has.
I have no stakes in this.
You're not putting 10 on.
All right.
You don't have to. You do what you want. All right, Max has 42.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hold on. Let me think about this. Old's 19.
Have 85. I mean, realistically, if you're going to do it,
Of course, we don't know what kind of numbers he's been looking up right now.
I know that's why I pushed it down to a tenner and not another permit, because the permit's not cheap.
I'm gonna say 6,000 then.
6,000. He took the middle.
You guys are making me
You son of a
kind
bitch.
of question. Like,
No, I gotta hope that I gotta hope that he overachieved.
I mean, I figured he would damn near sell it out.
I figured.
I mean, with as
I
much
heard there was
hype as
like
there was, I figured there'd be a lot of people that would want to go do it. I mean, I don't know how many rallies he's done previous to this. I don't think he's done too many.
he
so
hasn't
far.
done any since like January, or maybe even any this year. I mean, I heard something that there were like 100,000
Like I said, I was
people.
surprised Pence was there. I was like, what? No.
I mean, I thought I'd heard that questioned the reputability of it or whatever, but I'd heard this motherfucker already saw the number. That's where he got the 42 from. God damn it, we fucked up, Sam.
I just saw the picture, and so but then the picture was that taken before like people started coming out, like as it was filming. So
and so to be fair,
See, yeah, you've already seen footage of it. I ain't seen shit.
but I guessed way over his, and my comment was that it didn't look like there were that many people there.
Right.
But so it's I don't know if we'll get the number, because whether it's tickets sold or tickets allocated versus people that actually showed
there
up,
was no tickets. It was
Actual
first come,
tickets,
first
yeah.
serve.
it was just in line.
Yeah, it was just that's why people started lining up or whatever.
Yeah, I'd seen something.
It was piss pouring yesterday. I saw people standing in line. I was like, damn, those poor bastards.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't a big deal, I'd go. Like if they did it at Thompson and I'm not gonna wait 10 hours to get in. But if he's doing his thing at 8 and I show up at 7:30 and I can walk in and see the show, I'd go see the show.
Stand outside watching on the jumbotron.
Yeah, I mean, and they did have that too. There was this outside stage as well where there were people outside. And I'd seen some pictures
See,
of that
this
as
is
well.
this is the picture.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing. So the upper deck did have some seating on it,
And this
but
one,
only right behind him,
That's
just
with
to
all
make
the
sure.
lights on. That's like definitely pre.
No, that's what it looked like after Pence, before Trump started.
Oh,
Yeah,
Trump
So-
said that there was over 1 million people signed up for it.
right. Well, I mean, sure, if you're on his mailing list.
People, yeah, I was about to say, he's got 1 million people on his mailing
Yeah,
list.
sure.
They
Why not?
click that yes or no box.
This is an intriguing episode to listen to right now.
Are
as
you
we
interested?
argue.
Are you interested in this?
That
Yes.
was the one that I didn't see there was anybody in the upper bowl.
Yeah. So we'll see. Max is locked in at 42. I've got 85. Sam has 6,000, and it's closest. Period. So
Gets a hand job, right?
gets a tenner. Gets tickles. I'm sticking to that part of it.
Tickling?
What else we got going on?
Tickle.
I mean, we haven't talked riots. We haven't talked coronavirus at all.
Chaz or Chopped or it's funny when you watch like social media and stuff because people put on bullshit. I saw this thing that was a video of all these like Harley biker guy gang people, they're not gangs, they're clubs or whatever they are, but it was probably like 100 motorcycles getting ready to leave, and they're like, these guys are headed to Seattle to clear out the Chaz, and they're gonna take it down. And I'm like, you have no idea if that's true. That's somebody that like takes that video and is like, yeah, this is what's going on.
I mean, I saw the one. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was Fox News had put like a montage together of photos,
Yeah.
and that they had significantly edited some photos and put like
superimposed. I think it was like 4 separate pictures of the same guy standing there with a bulletproof vest.
Right, standing there in like SWAT gear basically, but they had him in front of this car that was on fire, and then they had him over here, and then they had him over there, and it was like
they did a half-ass apology about it too.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
I mean, that's not to defend Fox News, but that's how they all do it when they do some bullshit. They all just say, "Okay, we screwed that up, sorry," and then they move on. There's no, as far as like,
you've been like superimposing people. I'm like,
no.
You think it's that common?
I mean, it probably is a little more common than this, but the I'm just talking about when you literally, just misreport a story because you didn't put the effort in, or even if whether. Not even arguing intentionality, but I'd say sometimes even on purpose you put a bad story out and get caught in it. The best you get is we kind of screwed that up, and it's a 10-second
editor's note.
Right, well, it's a 10-second blurb and moving on.
I was kind of impressed. I saw a video of this old guy with American flag on and Make America Great Trump hat that walked through Chaz. He's walked through the whole thing, and everyone's like, don't talk to him, leave him alone, he's just trying to get publicity. And like there was a couple people that would, but like he went through that whole entire thing and there wasn't much people in his face, and that surprised me that they were not.
There was one story they were trying to say that there was a mob of people going around to the businesses in that Chad zone that were extorting them, like, okay,
I heard that a couple times, yeah.
Either give us some money. And apparently that was a story that actually happened in Seattle, but it was like 2015 or 2016 during some riots.
Yeah, I hadn't heard any. I'd heard that a couple times, but I didn't really hear anything.
Businesses are being extorted.
I did see a video of a guy that he's got a business right. It's not in the Chaz zone, but it's right next to the Chaz zone.
Hold on, it's Chop now. Sorry, it's Chop. Not Chaz. We talked about this earlier. I'll tell that story in a second.
They can't use Chop because that's trademarked by Food Network.
Okay. Anyway.
So, the guy owns a company, and he was having his business was being broken into, and he called the police, and the police are like, "Yeah, we're not coming." And so he like hired like private security.
Right.
So he has his like chain link fence. I don't know if he does construction or something like that, but he has like private security guarding him. And he was like, the media is like standing outside interviewing him. He's like, I called, and they said. He's like, at first they said they were coming, and then after like the 8th time I called, like, are you guys coming? They were like, no, we're not coming. It's too close to the chop zone.
Right. So the reason I wanted to specify that is because I'd heard, at least my understanding of it is that the A that I couldn't remember last week when we were talking about is autonomous. And so they changed it to CHOP, so it's the Capitol Hill. It was Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, that's Chaz. It's now Capitol Hill Occupied Protest. Because when they called it Autonomous Zone, they were essentially trying to say that we are not part of the United States anymore. And then they couldn't... people that actually lived there and some of the other social services that were in place were being cut off because it's like, okay, well, you're not part of the country anymore. We're not going to service these things. So people weren't getting their welfare checks or whatever. I don't know explicitly what it was, but essentially the reason the name change came down is because they didn't want to really not be a part of the United States because they didn't want to lose.
Yeah, I'd heard some story they were trying to declare their own statehood or own countryhood.
Well, I declared mine. When the cops are going to come out and find me for having 2 RVs on my property.
How'd that go when the lady came?
She never came.
Nice.
Did you reschedule?
No one ever came. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a bill in the mail.
We got Kyle. Kyle Ward will be here Monday.
Drove by and like took a picture. They're like, no, we came by.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I've declared my property the CHOP zone. So
independent.
I declared Chaz. I didn't know it got changed. So now the Knox County Police Department has no jurisdiction over my property.
I mean, apparently you're allowed to say it. So
it's like the videos of the people that are what do they call themselves? Free. You ever see they get pulled over police and they're like, "Get your driver's license." I don't have to have a driver's license because I'm a
sovereign citizen.
Sovereign citizen. I'm a sovereign citizen. You have no rights over me.
I watched some of those videos and I'm just like, why are you being such a fucking dick?
Exactly.
They'll like roll their window down like half an inch, and they'll immediately cop like walks up like, hey sir, how you doing? Like, am I being detained? Am I being detained? I mean, they're obviously, holding their phone, showing that they're filming themselves, being pulled over by the police, and their automatic response is, "Am I being detained? Am I free to leave?"
Well, I mean, but okay, so but that's a good part of what's going on, of where we are now as far as some of the police issues we're having, is this whole distrust of the police and them doing their things legitimately has been missing for a while. And so, I'm not disagreeing with you that they're being dicks and trying to put on the show.
But that guy,
It's one thing.
that guy that's doing that, if his daughter was kidnapped and
He's calling the cops
on
on
the
highway.
run, he's calling the police, and he's wondering why they're not pulling over every minivan because someone said there's a minivan in the area, and he's like well, you pulled me over. What's your reason for? You don't have rights to pull me over. Like, maybe it's a situation that if you were on the other side, you'd be okay with, and that's, I don't know. That's my opinion is if there are dickhead cops out there, but when a cop pulls you over just to just be a dick, just to be a dick,
Right.
That
doesn't make
automatically
sense.
flips them in that defensive point as well.
Right. And that was actually...
You're like, what are you trying to hide? Like, why are you...
Right. Why are you... Yeah. You'd mentioned earlier that you'd seen some of the Jocko Willink on Rogan thing. And he actually said something really, really interesting on it, in that he was saying, like, police departments should put out a public service, basically have a public service standard, this is how to interact with a police officer. It's like...
Or even say, like, these are your rights.
Right,
like,
but...
We'll quote them, like, straight out say, like, these are exactly all of
you
your
don't
rights.
have to roll the window down all the way. You have to roll
Like,
it
well, I read
down
this, and this is your
enough
rights. It's
to-
like, well, let's make it obvious. Like, these are your rights.
Right, and I mean that was kind of what he was getting at. It's like, how to interact with a police officer. Like, they're just people too. Like, he's like, they're people too. They could have a bad day. Their wife could have just left them this morning, and they're at work and they're having a shitty day. And it doesn't excuse them abusing their job by any means. But if you go in there being an asshole to them, and they're already got some shit on top of it, it's not unnatural to react poorly. So, if the citizenry had a better understanding of how to interact just with, and realistically, the public service announcement would be like, this is how to interact with people, specifically cops, but people in general, is just don't start out being a dick, because you don't know where they are. You don't know where their head's at. You don't know what's going on with them in their lives. They could have just had the most terrible series of events, and they're trying to get back to work and trying to get back to normal, and they're trying really hard, and you just be a dick, and that flips that switch, and then shit goes really sideways.
Well, it's just like at the shop. You're working at the shop, and someone comes in and they throw their vape on the counter. Like, I bought this piece of shit here yesterday, and it doesn't fucking work, and I want my money back. Automatically, you're like, fucking slow your roll, bitch. Now I don't give a shit. I'm not giving you, you go into that defensive territory versus someone walking in and going, man, I just bought this yesterday. I can't figure out what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Then you're like, I don't know. And then now you want to help that person out.
Right.
And so just like dealing with a cop, if you give that attitude back, I think it was the same guy that was bitching about not rolling down his window. He had a bunch of videos, and he was going into his own neighborhood. And I don't know the reason. It didn't have any backstory, but the cops had the neighborhood blocked off. And they stopped him, and he was like, I'm going to my house. They're like, well, okay, well, can we see your ID? He's like, you don't have the right to see my ID. This is public street. You can't block this off. And they're like, we're just protecting the neighborhood. We've got to make sure that people come in this neighborhood, live here. And he's like, well, I'm not giving you can't stop me. This is public. And he just starts being a dick. He's like, fine, just run my license plate. You can see that my address, you can run my license plate. And the cop's like, you're right, we can, but it's easier if you just show us your driver's license. We know. He's like, well, I live in that green house right down the road right there. And they're like, fine, we'll just run your plate. And so they got a cop. And it's like, why? Why were you doing that when it was, for whatever reason, they weren't allowing people in the neighborhood? I don't know. They didn't go into that, but how hard would it have been just... The guy, oh yeah, he lived it.
Right. But so, I can get behind the idea of not just freely giving over information that you don't have to. But I agree that you don't have to be a dick about it. But I don't know. There's privacy issues and stuff like that to me that I think that police departments in general overstep a lot. And I can get behind the idea of being like, nah, you don't. I'm not trying to be an asshole here, but I don't. It's none of your business. It's an argument at your bachelor party that we had gotten into that you were already well lit, so you were puking out the window and a whole other side of stuff. But we were arguing about
Wait, who was puking out the window?
bachelor party, not wedding.
Gotcha.
I was the drunk ass at the wedding. He was the drunk ass at the bachelor party, like it's supposed to be. And your brother was in the car and a couple other guys, and they were talking about like gun control issues and like like mandatory registration and stuff like that. And it's just like and at this point I didn't even actually own a gun yet, but it's just like I take issue with the government needing to have all the information all the time. I take issue with their demanding personal information out of the citizenry all the time. So I can get behind the idea of being like, no, you don't have a right to my ID. You don't have a right to ask me who I am. It's none of your business. I can get behind that idea. I'm not excusing being an asshole about it, but I can get behind that idea because it turns into that standard argument of, well, if you don't have anything to hide, what's the problem? I don't have to hide anything. I don't have to have anything to hide to not want you to know my business. I'm a private citizen, and I want to keep my privacy private. That's my business as an individual. So I can get behind the idea of refusing that, but not being an asshole about it.
Well, yeah, but some of it is for protection. I mean, if your son was standing on a diving board and the whatever lifeguard was like, "Hey kid, can you swim before you jump off that diving board?" The kid's like, "None of your fucking business." Jumps off the diving board and drowns. The lifeguard's, he said it was none of my business. I mean, there's a certain time where you're asking for information that is none of your business because it is in the safety of that situation. Not saying that every situation they need to know, but
I mean, like the comparison is a little off, and it would be like, hey kid, what's your address? What does that have to do with me jumping off a diving board? What does that have to me? I mean, so comparatively, it'd be like, what does my address have to do with me driving down the street?
So would you be okay if they had the technology's already out there. If they had a camera, because you have a driver's license, your picture is already in the thing.
Right.
Let's say instead of asking you for your driver's license, like, okay, I need you to look at me. I'm gonna take your picture and just pull up all the information for you right then and there.
No. I mean, it's the same premise. I take issue. Like apparently, there's some technology running around that in the facial recognition thing. But I know that there's most police departments their dash cams will run plates just randomly. Like there's usually driving out, like cop will be driving down the street, and if it's behind a car, the dash cam's going to automatically run that plate, and if something pings, it's going to come up on the computer.
I asked a friend about that. It's been some years since he was on the force.
It's not in play.
But he said that stuff was really expensive.
Right.
Because I saw, I want to say it's like Parking Wars, and it was like the show that's set up in like Philadelphia, and one other show was when they mainly do, and it's all like what people would call like meter maids, but they had that camera system.
Right.
When they were driving around looking for expired parking tickets and whatnot.
Right. And it's
like,
just like I don't know. It's weird.
We
like
need to throw a boot on that car.
Yeah, and
but with the neighborhood thing, there was a reason why the cops had that neighborhood blocked off and were only letting people that live in that neighborhood.
And they gave him that reason. You just don't remember what it is, or they didn't give the reason.
They didn't give the reason because the guy was just like, "Fuck you! I'm not telling you my."
I mean, again, if he wasn't an asshole about it, if he was a little bit more straightforward about it, maybe the reason would have been given, and he would have been politer. I don't know. I think I would be hesitant without at least the reason. Personally, I think I'd be hesitant, just be like,
yeah. A lot of it comes down to the interaction.
I'm saying, like, I mean, like, what is? I mean, if it's a public emergency, I, as a member of the public, should have knowledge, right? I should be allowed to have knowledge. It shouldn't be some. Oh, it's a secret.
I agree.
It's a secret. You don't get to know why we're canvassing your neighborhood and not letting people move freely through your neighborhood that includes your property.
I agree. Yeah, like you pull up to down this road here and they have it blocked off. You're like, I live there, and they're like, cool. Let me see your driver's license. I can understand. Go.
What's going on?
What's going on in here? Oh, we have a gas leak, so we're not letting people pass this address. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I don't want to die. Or, so whatever it is.
Right. And I mean, that makes more sense too. And it's like, I could, if I don't want to deal with it, I can drive away, but then it's a suspicious issue secondarily, and they'll probably follow me or whatever. But
so a lot of it comes down to interaction. I mean, when somebody gets pulled over, I've heard mixed things on whether or not you're supposed to automatically tell someone, if you have if you're a license to carry, before you even get them your license, that may say one way or the other. And sometimes they'll go ahead and take it off, and the officer will, he's being an honest, good cop, he'll say, this is for your safety and mine. As far as, maybe taking it off of him.
I got pulled over and I told the cop, I said,
I've heard some law saying that you have to. I've seen some interactions where the cop got super pissed off because the guy didn't tell him till maybe like 5 minutes later when you asked him to get out of the car, and he's like,
when I got pulled over,
it's like, you're supposed to tell me as soon as I come to your car that you have a weapon on you. Like, you're supposed to identify, or you're supposed to inform law enforcement if you have a weapon.
I don't know why
automatically.
I got pulled over on Emory and had my license, and when he was coming up, I had my license and my carrying permit, and I said, I've got a firearm on me with my thing, and he said, where is it? And I said, it's my front right pocket. He's like, cool, leave it there. And then he came back and he's like, Emory's only 40 miles an hour. And I was like,
Does anybody else know that? Because it doesn't seem like it.
I was like, no. He's like, you're doing 50. He's like, just slow down. He's like, it's only 40. And I was like, when does it turn 40? And he goes, all of Emory, the whole entire, if it says Emory on it, it's 40 miles an hour. And I was like, oh, good to know.
Last time I got pulled over was speeding, going down a back highway road in Knox County. Even the cop was pretty understanding. I think he's like, clock's doing between like 42 and 47. He's like, but it's 30 on pretty much like any back road around this county. He's like, most people don't do that. And he was totally cool about it.
Yeah, he didn't write me a ticket. He never asked me to take the gun out. Never asked
just like, where you going?
It's all the interaction.
Again, like I said, it comes down to the interaction.
Right.
I mean, you start acting like really jumpy, like that cop's gonna sense that and be like, he's nervous about something.
Or if I didn't tell him I had a gun, and when he runs my license, he's gonna see that I have a carry permit. Then he comes back like, you have a gun on you? Well, yeah, I've got a carry permit for that. Oh, okay. And then now, am I getting a speeding ticket because I was not upfront with him?
Or when he comes back with his arm with his hand on his hip, making sure that you didn't, I mean, I guess he would have ran your license and seen any warrants or any reason for you to run. But I don't know. We were talking about reason to run the Atlanta one. Mm-hmm. We've talked about it off air, all of us, at least individually. I'm conflicted about it. Max has an official opinion. I think you guys agree, as far as I recall.
Absolutely. The guy was unarmed. He had no firearm. He had no weapon other than if he had a rock in his hand at the point that cop shot him. That's my thing. If he would have turned around, pointed that taser at him, and then the cop would have shot him before he shot the taser, then I would say, okay, I understand, like, he had a weapon. But after he shoots the taser at the cop, misses the cop, turns around and walks away, there's about 2 seconds before the guy's running away that the cop pulls out his gun and shoots him. At that point, the guy had no weapon.
Right, just running away.
And that's what I...
But how many episodes of Cops you see the cops like chasing a guy like through neighborhoods,
not shooting
jumping
them
over fences?
Right, exactly. Like, you could have chased him.
Well, I mean, because
I wonder what took so long. The other guy that was on the ground, like in the little bit of video that I saw, like the other guy that was on the ground at some point, it seems like it took him a little while to get back up.
It did. And he was the one who had his
getting back into it.
He was the one who had his taser taken.
Yeah. Because the cop that did the actual shooting fired his taser and missed first, and then had the suspect fire the taser upon him and miss, at which point neither of them essentially have a taser, and then he proceeds to shoot him. And I get that part. But the one thing that I talked about with Max on it, where I'm not confused on it, where I'm conflicted on it, is that a lot of police departments have a standard, one of the standard rules of the as a police officer, you're allowed to go one step of escalation above what's in front of you. I'm not sure I'm turning that right. Basically, how'd you put it? I forgot how you said it when I said it. It was like,
if you have a fist, I have a stick.
Right.
If you got a stick, I have a
and
gun.
by policy, my understanding is by policy, the police are usually allowed to go +1. And so if you have a taser, they can shoot you. And so my question, I guess, is where I'm conflicted on it, is if it's policy issue, I don't know if I'm okay with the cop getting arrested for murder. If it was the cop stepping outside of what's inside, if he broke policy to do what he did, then yeah, I'm okay with that. That's where I'm conflicted on it. And again, the question I asked to Max at least on this was if this would have happened back in January. Because I mean, it's full footage. I mean, would this guy been our Michael Floyd, or would this just been another police-related shooting and move on? That's my big question about this one. Would this been our? I don't think so. The Michael Floyd one, that 8.5, 8:45, 8:46, however long it was that he was kneeling on him, was just so gross. And I understand that there's an extra level of nastiness about the way Floyd died, but that's my again.
The Atlanta thing. It was a 3-second.
Right.
It was a decision made in 3 seconds, not a decision made in 8 minutes and 48 seconds, whatever.
Right.
And I think they interviewed the one guy that was in the white car that one of the bullets went into the side of his car. I kind of mentioned it, and I'm like, if you're a hunter and you go for a hunter safety course, you're always taught know what's downrange.
Right. Because even if you hit it and you get it through and through, you're hitting what's behind it. Or if you're not very good and you miss, you're hitting what's behind it. So you better make sure there's not something you don't want to hit behind it.
I mean, I don't want to discount that. I mean, and I've never been in a gunfight, but I mean, in that type of high adrenaline situation, I know some of those things are not going through your head.
Right.
And I'm trying to add defense. I mean,
no, I mean, I fully agree with that part. I
don't know if I don't know if it comes down to some of training as well. I don't know if I'm assuming the military does some. I know they do live training, but as far as kind of a semi under duress type firing, to where I mean you're totally stressed out, but you've still got to be able to do what you need to do. I think a lot of cops,
I don't know if the general infantryman does, but
1 week a month at the firing range, and that's totally different than when you've got to use it.
Well, Jocko was talking about exactly that on the Rogan podcast. He's like, because he was a Navy SEAL, he was a SEAL, and then he went on to be a trainer, and trained a bunch of different people and all this different stuff. And he's like, it's 20% of the time we're doing training. 20% of the time we're doing training. That's what the police departments need to do, and they don't. Talking about how little they do training. But he's like, one of the things they'll do is they'll set up scenarios, and I can't simulated ammunition essentially. So it's real guns with non-lethal rounds essentially in it, and they'll go set up
real rounds, but paintball type.
Right, and they'll go out. And
we didn't do any of that. We did where you have it's called Miles gear, and you put a thing on the end of your barrel, so when you shoot a blank, it re-racks it. Because if you put a blank in your AR and you pull the trigger, it just shoots air basically, or gunpowder, no projectile, and there's not enough pressure to eject it. So we had a thing that we put on the front of the barrel that would eject it, and then you have basically a laser that shoots that triggers every time the rifle goes off, and it shoots a laser. And basically we had these vests on our chest that had these little
super badass laser tag essentially.
Yeah, big ass laser tag. So we did a lot of that, and once your vest goes off, it's loud as crap and annoying because it's beeping, and the only way to turn it off is to take the key out of your rifle, the whole thing that shoots the laser, out of the rifle, and put it into your gear, and now your gear shuts off, but you can't shoot back.
Right.
So it's kind of that's how do. And then we also did, which is the most fun ever, is Daisy Red Riders. We go into
BB guns. You go just show.
Hell yeah! We go in Mount, which is Military Operation Urban Terrain, which is little cities. Like Camp Pendleton has these little brick cities, and we'd go in there with our little Daisy Red Riders, and we'd put our flak jackets on, and we'd have goggles, and we would go around and shoot. The only thing that was bad is we would shoot each other more. I think
right. So it's like playing Call of Duty. You shoot your team because it's funny.
Yeah, Nias, if you're listening to this, crawling through a window and
shoot him right in the ass.
Shoot him right in the ass. I'm like, where is that from? I don't know, man. I don't know where it's coming from.
Get down, get to cover.
But anyway,
get to ow.
But Jocko's talking about how the percentage of working time for SEALs, at least 20% of that time's training, and in that 20% of training, this whether it's for lazy math, in a 5-hour workday, 1 hour of the day you're doing training. That training day one might be in negotiation tactics. They're trading day 2 as like live fire, kind of running around getting crazy. Day 3 is de-escalation tactics and all these different stuff. And so but the 20% rule is what they use. And, it's already been mentioned a few times how that it's probably like 0.5% of the working hours of a cop does the same thing.
Well, I bet there's Knox County police officers that shoot their firearm a couple times a year.
Right.
When they have to go to the range and qualify or whatever. And then I'm sure there's those officers that on their own time go weekly to go shoot and train. But yeah, it's I would guess that it's not a normal training thing.
Right. But the Atlanta situation being what it is that I would have to think, like Sam said, that there's got to be some rules in place about at least having some minimal awareness of what's around you. Because there was 5 cars in line in the parking lot?
There's one cop rolled off the other car.
Like the photo, it looked like there was 2 or 3 cars that were in between what would be considered the parking lot and the drive-through. And I'm assuming that there's maybe cars that were just going around the building, and all of a sudden saw 2 or 3 cruisers sitting there, and what the hell's going on? I better stop. Whoa, I don't think I should be going anywhere right now.
With the footage from the over the fast food restaurant that shoots to the parking lot, there's a line of cars, and I'm guessing it's people trying to go through the drive-through when they're running this way.
Right, they're running against the cars.
Falls on that one car.
Yeah, and so I think that's that part specifically I take major issue with. But again, the whether it's a policy that cop thought it was okay in the situation, it changes where the blame lies, at least to me. It doesn't fully excuse the officer's actions, but if that is standard ops and that's what they're supposed to do, and it's fires on you fire back regardless of what they fire on you. I mean, it's a policy issue, and that's
if that's a policy issue, then he shouldn't be charged, right?
I mean, maybe he still should be.
I heard a couple things, and I want to say it was one of the Atlanta district attorneys, as far as what the Atlanta Police Department considers the taser, whether they consider that a lethal weapon or a non-lethal weapon. And I could have swore I heard both, and I'm like, well shit, what do they consider it?
Well, I mean, I would say, in a situation of if you're the only cop there, and you get into a skirmish with this guy, and this guy gets your taser from you, and if he's not shot it yet, and he goes to draw on you, because now he tases you, what happens? Now he can get your gun. Now he can kill you, or tase you, and then beat the shit out of you till you die. That's different than 2 cops on the scene. The guy's got a taser. Taser fires once. Okay, so he knocks down your buddy. You still have...
At this point, nobody has a working taser.
Yeah.
Now
he doesn't have any.
I was thinking some had 2 shots, but I don't know.
I don't know either. But
no, they shoot at that that line kind of thing.
Yeah. But more importantly too is that everybody talks about where did the thing switch? It switched immediately upon the arrest part. I get that part. Mm-hmm. But it went from 15, 20, I've heard up to 30 minutes of
talking to him.
Sitting and talking to him and trying to, understand the situation. And then all of a sudden it's like, man, you're under arrest. It's the way it is. And he, one arm got back and then it was like, fuck no. And then 10 seconds later, he's dead in the parking lot.
Which is sad because, the cop, when you watch the video, that cop was so nice to him. Was not
right. But that's my point. That's why I feel like it's more of a policy thing or of a standard operational thing, because it obviously wasn't a malice. It wasn't like he was just waiting for the chance. He's like, I'm gonna kill somebody tonight. I'm gonna go to work. I'm a cop. I'm gonna kill somebody tonight. Here's some drunk idiot and black guy. I can shoot black guys. It's cool, right? And now I can shoot him. No, it was he went through and he sat and talked to him and tried to help understand what was going on and tried to, but at the end of the day, the guy was operating his vehicle drunk. At least that was the understanding.
No, he was. He said on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being completely sober and 10 being completely drunk, where do you find yourself? He's like, well, I feel good. I'm probably a 7. And he's like, so no. So you're drunk? No. I'm not drunk. Okay. If 1 is completely sober and 10 is the worst drunk you've ever been in your life, where do you fall? The guy's like, No, I feel good. Like I'm not drunk, and like he kept on trying to like talk to the guy to get him to a breathalyzer, and that was a sad thing, is the interaction with the police for the whole entire thing, how patient they were with this guy that was drunk and all that kind of stuff. And if there was less time in between where he shot the guy and the guy shot the thing, like if he would have reached back for his taser, went to shoot him, and the cop shot him, I would be on the side of the cop. But I just think there was too much time between where after missing him with the taser,
right, and
him pulling the gun.
And then realistically too, you know, what is the need to detain that person right now? At this point, you have his vehicle disabled over in the parking lot. You have all his information. I mean, you're realistically, worst case scenario, he runs out in traffic and gets run over. So worst case scenario is an accident kills the guy instead of you killing the guy specifically because you can't let him get away. And it's like, get away where? Where's he going to go? I mean, and is this something you're going to do like a fucking citywide manhunt to chase down a drunk driver running around now drunk without a car?
Yeah.
You know, is this something that's worth any of this? And so that's, I mean, I'm not okay with it. And I don't mean to try to I mean, I don't think he should have died. He absolutely shouldn't have died for the situation, but it's just like, I don't understand that logic in policing, and said like, there's, you know, and again, going back to why the privacy issues, it's like, we obviously don't have any of the privacy that I would like us to have. So it's not like they can't find you. I mean, it's like the fucking stupid ass incident with my dog. I mean, I got arrested 10 fucking years ago for public intox, and the animal control comes out, which is attached to the sheriff's department, because I had an incident with my dog, and they're like, I was like, do you need anything from me? Or it's like, no, you're already on file. Oh, okay. They already, you know, I mean, they don't need to know who I am or anything.
As a dog owner,
were you drunk when the dog attacked you? Because that might be an issue.
But I'm just saying, like, it's like, so all that information was already there in the place. So where's he gonna go? What's he gonna do? And is even if he disappears off the fucking map, like if he just completely ghosts out and doesn't exist in America anymore and flees to Mexico or something like that, is it worth anything to give a shit if that's what happens?
He's a child abuser.
a DUI for falling asleep in a drive-thru.
Right, and not to mention they now own his car, and that's going to be worth at least most of what they would have got out of him in a fucking DUI hearing. You know, I mean, that's what bothers me a lot about a lot of these type of situations. It's like, you know, what is the need for the now arrest so badly that you can't? I mean, let him fucking run.
Measured response.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get that what you're saying about, you know, just let him run, and if that's the policy that the police department adopts, let him run, then
I mean, it depends on what it is.
Are we going to have more people running? Are we going to have?
But I think
Best Buy does it.
I mean, I think
they won't chase you out the door.
No,
because they're afraid of getting sued.
Target doesn't. Yeah, I had a growing up friend's older brother was security at I want to say, no, it wasn't Target. It was some department store, and the person, they tried to stop the person when they walked out, and the person ran like through the parking lot, and the security guy chased the person, and the person tried to cross a busy road and got hit by a car, and they sued the department store because they said that the guy would have never ran if he wouldn't have chased him.
Well, we wouldn't have chased him if he wasn't stealing.
Exactly. So I mean, it's stupid. It's stupid to think, but I mean, but it goes back to what Sam said, that the interaction, most of this stuff could be prevented. I would say 99.9% of people dying because they're shithead cops could be prevented if people didn't resist, didn't have attitude, didn't have situation. You know, like, I don't even understand the whole George Floyd thing where they had him in handcuffs and put him in the car and then closed the door and then pulled him out the other side of the car. Like, you had him in the car. Like, what was it?
I didn't know that part, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that.
You didn't see? Yeah, they put him in the car. Like, he was calm. There's that video I sent you guys. It's a time,
like a full
thing
timeline one,
where all these different videos and timelines.
How do you like it when we don't read the articles that you sent us?
Yeah, And so I didn't want to. Yeah, well, I don't read. I need video. So
So next time I find a news story that I want to
Don't
share,
send you an article. Send you a video.
Send me a
next time
video.
I find an article,
Or at least some
I'm going
closed
to do a
captioning.
selfie video of myself reading
the article. Yes,
that's
and
the only way you're
it'll
going
be
to catch
perfect.
it. Okay.
No, but they handcuff him. He's like, okay. And then when they get to the car, he starts saying something about he's claustrophobic or whatever. But they put him in, I guess, the driver's rear door. And they put him in that door, and then they close the door, and then they go around the other side of the car, open that door, and then pull him out through that door. And then that's why he was on the ground on the passenger side. And I was just thinking, I didn't know he got in the car.
Yeah, why did he get back out?
Like, why did you take him? Like, okay, he's kicking or spitting or I don't know what he's doing, yelling, screaming. Like, why do you? But you had him in the car.
Some other asshole that works for the police department has to clean that up. What do you care?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean-
Like, why did you take him out of the car?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that is pretty crazy. I didn't know that part of it, but yeah, I don't know because you go back. I mean, let him run, fucking let him run, because you get in all sorts of crazy stupid shit. Like, what was it, the FedEx truck or UPS truck that got hijacked from some guy running from the cops, and then there was like a full on fucking shootout at a stoplight with like 50 cars stuck in traffic, and there's fucking guys shooting out of the UPS truck at the cops. The cops are shooting back at him. And it was in California somewhere on some busy road, and everybody's stopped in traffic, and there's a fucking firefight, and there's a ton of people around. Let them fucking run.
Yeah, I want to say in a lot of areas, like there's certain high-speed chases to where the high-speed chase team will essentially call it off. They're like, this is dangerous for the person that we're chasing because we're almost increasing them to like lead-footed that much more, and it's dangerous because we're driving this fast with public that doesn't know we're doing 100 going down a road. To where they'll essentially call it off. They're like, it's not worth chasing this person.
And that should be the rule, not the exception. That should be the all the time. I mean, what's
the gas thing?
unless you're talking about
So you're throwing in an exception there.
unless you're talking about an active shooter who is already shooting at people, whether it's police or otherwise.
I
Like
mean,
if
you were following a mass murderer that may not be able to get caught again.
I
mean, you can play the what if game, but
what's the stuff? What's the gas you give people that knocks them out?
chloroform.
No, not chloroform because doctors don't use chloroform, right? What do they? Yeah, they put a little mask on your face and.
nitrous?
No, that
That's
makes
so
you just
silly.
laugh.
That's giggly.
But, you know, like
Whatever.
whatever it is. Can they not like weaponize that? You know, you got a bunch of like crazy protesters out there. Instead of shooting tear
shit.
gas at them, you just shoot that shit out, and then like everyone just falls asleep.
But I'd heard, and I don't know, I have zero knowledge of whether it's factual or not, is that I heard it argued that tear gas is that the military doesn't use tear gas because it breaks the Geneva Convention.
Well, they use CS gas, which I don't know if tear gas is like Kleenex.
So I've heard it's kind of like a
You know what I mean?
a very generic term for
Yeah, like like Kleenex. I mean, it's not. There's nothing Kleenex, but if you say Kleenex, everyone knows what you're talking about.
Right. Facial
tissue.
it's a smoke bomb that has a little bit of pepper extract in it that makes your eyes water.
But like in the
Most people
military,
are like, I think that's tear gas.
yeah, in the military they use CS gas and that stuff. Like there are people that we had to do the gas chamber and all that kind of stuff, and there's people that hugely react, and it makes my nose run and eyes water and like feel bad and stuff like that. But when we were talking about those the mount training that we had to do in the urban stuff, like we'd be shooting and stuff, and then after the day's over, we've got to go clean up all these rounds. So we have like what are those called, brooms, and we're sweeping up the rounds and going up there. But they also do tear gas and that stuff. And not tear gas, CS gas. They'll use we didn't use CS gas, but the people before us used CS gas.
Right.
And that stuff will be down in the dirt. And you start sweeping up this room, and then the dust comes up, and other people will be like, "Oh my god!" And they're running out of the room. They're like, "I can't stand this." And I'm sitting there sweeping. I'm like, "This is funny." Like I'm tearing up, snot's coming out of my nose, but like I can work through it. I mean,
Right.
it affects me, but I can work through it. So not everybody is affected. I mean, when you watch the riots and they're shooting. the tear gas at these people. There's some people that are like, they look like
they'll pick it up and throw it back at them and be right in their face. And
and there's some people that are just fun. There's some people that are, so it affects everybody different on.
But I mean, my point was, I heard that it was I guess that's false then, because they use it in the Marine Corps. So
yeah, CS gas is normal, but I don't know if CS gas is different than like tear gas.
I'm sure it's just old. I'm sure it's cop tear gas is just old military shit that they bought. I mean,
old shit.
Realistically, it's just it might be expired, and that's why it's so much worse. But
we've had this on the shelf for a while. You guys want to buy it? $10 a can?
Yeah.
Okay.
We paid $700 for it.
Yeah. And we'll take that $10 and pilfer it somewhere else. So that's what we do. But I don't know. It's just it's a weird time, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. The defund the cops thing, I don't understand. I understand that it's not really defund the cops. It's really reallocate. Like I think it was at Kansas City, something like that. There's an article about like Kansas City or something like that is now, depending on the 911 call, they're going to basically send out social workers instead of cops for certain 911 calls, which I mean makes sense to me. You got a suicidal person, you don't need to send a couple guys with guns and badges that may not have any real training in kind of dealing with that situation, and but
I mean, you have a couple social workers get beat up and murdered or something like that.
That's first thought too. Yeah.
Then it's going to be like, why are we sending this in? And whoever's the president at the time, whether it's a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, is going to have the brunt of, why did you do this? Right. And they're like, that shit was before I even got elected.
Right.
I mean, I've had the crazy thought of trying to treat it almost as like the way we treat SWAT. It's like almost like to use the generic term, a measured response. I mean, not necessarily send a police officer after, small time type things, but you would send a police officer in a slightly more elevated situation to where we would do that with the SWAT.
There's a huge logistical question to me, is like how many.
Right, I mean, it's oversimplifying.
Yeah, but I mean, how many cops are on the like right now on a Saturday night in Knoxville? How many cops are working? And I get shit hammered, and you guys call me an asshole, and we shut the podcast off, and I sit down here and I want to kill myself, and I call the police. I'm like, I think I'm going to kill myself. I mean, how long am I expected to wait to get the 2 social workers that are on duty right now to get all the way here from wherever they're stationed, where there's a cop probably I would ballpark within a mile from here right now.
I think you could almost have like a team almost. Like you've got an officer and someone that is more trained in that area. Not necessarily a social worker, but someone with that sort of training.
Yeah.
I did see some good videos recently that just made me like laugh and cool. But it was at a gas station, and there was like some black people, and then the cops come on the scene, and the 2 cops are there, and there's this guy standing there. He's got his hands up and stuff, and they're like, they're saying something about he's got a gun and stuff, and the cops got their guns out, and the guy gets down on the ground, and his girlfriend comes running over, and she's like, don't shoot him. She's like, they were like, we need to get the gun. And she's like, I'll get the gun from you. I'll get the gun. And she's blocking from the cops, and he's down on the ground. He's reaching in his thing, and he pulls out a wedding ring.
Aww.
And then this chick, she starts freaking out. But I was like, so obviously it was planned, but I was like, that's hilarious. But he got his ass beat when he got back to the house, right?
I saw a video of a Russian guy that did that, and it was this crazy like drug bust where they had like a big Ziploc baggie, I guess like full of flour, where this guy was like with his girlfriend driving down the road and got pulled over, and it was like this crazy like drug bust, and it ended up being a wedding proposal, and it was like,
well, there's a funny one.
That's something you're gonna remember, but fuck.
Yeah.
Group of kids, it was a group of younger dudes that were hanging out, and they had their trunk full of coke, and they were just like down at the park or whatever, and they were trying to sell coke, and like the whole thing was to get the cops to show up, and like it was all like it was super planned out, and I mean, I guess that's a white privilege moment if there ever is one, in that you're literally playing this game, and you're intentionally trying to put off the impression that you're selling cocaine in a park, wanting the cops to show up so that you can play a joke on them when they open the trunk and it's Coca-Cola, a trunk full of Coca-Cola. And it's like, oh, that's funny. Like, I'd arrest them. I'd fucking arrest them. Be like, you're wasting my fucking time, you fucking assholes. That's some bullshit.
I see another one with a black couple that got pulled over, and the white cop came over to the door, and he was like, oh, the reason why I pulled you over is because you know that children are supposed to be in child seats.
Oh yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah.
And the guy's like, what? I don't have a kid in here. And he's like, oh yeah, you do. And the cop like looks in the back. He's like, are you sure you don't have a child in the car? And he's like, I don't have. And then you see the woman's filming, and she's holding up a pregnancy test. And the cop's like, he looks over. He's like, holy shit. That's fun. I like that kind of stuff. That's
well, that's how. I mean,
it's good community.
Right. That's how it needs to be, and that's why I'm hopeful that we can get Manis on here, because he had in his mayoral run, he had a big thing about trying to get a more community-based police force, as far as like he doesn't like that the old St. Mary's building's getting repurposed into the new police department and all that kind of shit, because he's like, I don't want a central one, I want them all spread out, I want little stations all over town instead of one big one downtown. But also he's a Democrat, but he's running as a Republican, and I really would like to ask him how that works.
Yeah.
Like
really?
Yeah. Like I was reading through different stuff, and I was trying to do some research on him in the hopes that we get a chance to talk to him.
This because he's already lost to the Democrat in the primary?
No, because I mean, well, at least the way the news story read is that that Virginia Couch is running unopposed on the Democratic side of the primary, and he's running as a Republican because he realizes he's in East Tennessee and he has to run as a Republican for a chance to win. But it's like, it's gross, and I don't know how it's going to go if I get the chance to ask him, like, hey, so you were a Democrat when? I'm really confused on this, like, because this police thing I think is kind of cool. I'm down with that, but I'm just kind of curious how you get to just switch that way and how that works, because
he's gonna be like, well, Trump did it.
Maybe, but it's like, it
worked for him.
What I need is get this Manny Setti guy, try to get a hold of him, and the one other one, because Manny Setti had when I first opened the YouTube for watching the Trump thing, Manny Setti had an ad on it. He's our senator running for our districts, and
State senator?
No, federal.
Okay.
And he's running against the other guy that's in town that literally his billboard or his signs that are everywhere. I can't remember the other guy's name, but basically because his whole billboard is endorsed by Trump. Like it's his name and then endorsed by Trump.
Bill Haggerty.
Yeah.
I've seen one. It's a goofy fucking commercial for it, and they just keep like saying they're all like in this small little like diner cafe, and they keep saying the guy's last name's like Rap. No, Nap, crap, what? Like, yes, Nap. And they just keep like saying the guy's name, like mispronouncing the guy's like last name. I'm just like, yeah, that's me, Bob Knapp.
It's pretty. I mean, it's good.
I'm endorsed by Trump.
Yeah, I mean, you say
so is Marsha Blackburn.
Right.
She's fucking crap.
It's a solid marketing. I mean, it's a solid marketing game though, because you just, I mean, we've talked about it before.
That hometown view of the local diner.
Well, not just that issue is that if they can manage it, like, in how little people pay attention to local elections, if you can manage through your marketing to get your name stuck in people's heads, when they're in the booth and they don't know any better.
But I remember his name.
I remember his name, and that's it's not a bad play.
Yeah, that's correct.
But all right, so I think I think that we've hit our 2-hour mark. If anybody's got nothing else, any exciting thing, we can go for another 30 minutes on.
No, when we get AC here, I think we should go down to Joe Jorgensen. See what see how he sits on all that.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, the issue with that one though is most of her issues are in platform stances, not in specifics. Like, we have, like, when we did the Biden version of it, like, there were specifics that he put up, and that's, I mean, I guess that's how we got AC off of the Biden train, is that some of those specifics that Biden put up. And so I'm going to go ahead and preview what I'm pretty sure AC is going to say. Is he's going to be like, what is that? I don't understand. It's too vague. Because most of them reading down
that's what I saw looking at some of the issues pages.
You know what we should do is we should, because AC's never going to listen to this, so we can preview this, is do what Trump stands for, but tell him it's somebody else independent that's running, and see.
Yep.
See what he says.
Write it up.
That's who I'm following.
Write it up. Or do it. Put it in their notes on your phone, so that he thinks you're reading it off of the website of somebody. So you're looking. So you're reading it. You're reading it off your phone, like you pulled up the web page, and even make it up, lie and be like, this is whomever, and at least until he goes, who is this again?
The Wildlife American Foundation.
It's a senator out of Rhode Island.
Yeah, well, find one of the other third parties that's active, and just be like, it's JillStein.com. Don't do Jill Stein though, because he's gonna know enough about her because she's been around. But
yeah,
find some other third party candidate that's trying to do something, and just be like, oh, it's whatever.com, and just read them.
I don't think she's running again.
But he's good. But I don't know if she's running again or not. But he's gonna know at least a little bit about her from previous elections and stuff like that to not do that one. Mm-hmm. So episode 15. It's the day after Juneteenth. Make Juneteenth a bigger deal, people. I think it's important. It needs to. We need a food and drink to attach to it and make it a drinking holiday.
Exactly.
Let it be a Cinco de Mayo, except for us, not us. Ooh, that sounded wrong. But Monday, Kyle Ward's coming in, and he's my county commissioner for AC and I, at least. And I'm gonna talk to him about what a county commissioner actually does and what impact they have on stuff. And if you want to get on our Facebook page and ask any questions that I can ask Kyle Ward on your behalf, I'll be happy to do so. Almost an Agreement at Facebook, or It's Almost an Agreement on YouTube, and you can comment any questions you have there as well. And we appreciate y'all for listening. We'll be back on Monday with Kyle Ward, and then we'll be back next weekend. I'm not going to promise AC, and we'll try to give you our bet results as soon as we figure that out.
Word.